The U.S. Supreme Court voting 5-4 to uphold President Trump's travel ban, effectively banning 150 million people from 7 countries from entering the United States. President Trump originally tweeted a shocked wow in response to the ruling and then hailed it as a tremendous victory during a White House meeting with senators.
We just have to know who's coming here. The ruling shows that all of the attacks from the media and the Democrat politicians are wrong, and they turned out to be very wrong. And what we're looking for as Republicans, I can tell you, is strong borders, no crime.
For more, I want to get straight to Washington, where Joshua Geltzer is standing by. He is a visiting professor of law at Georgetown University and was a signatory to an amicus brief about the travel ban, along with 51 other national security and foreign policy leaders. He was also a former clerk for Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer, who was a dissenting voice on Tuesday's ruling, and a former counsel at the Department of Justice. So, Joshua, given your background here, what's your reaction to this today?
Well, today's decision in and of itself is a disappointing one for those of us who think that this travel ban in all 3 of its incarnations violates both the statute and the Constitution. But I think you need to look at it in the context of a 17-month saga, going back to the very first ban being issued by Trump a week into his presidency. And there, over those 17 months, you see courts scrutinizing what the president did, asking tough questions of his lawyers, forcing the president, by his own admission, to revise multiple times the ban. And ultimately, even if I disagree with where the Supreme Court landed today, you see the rule of law standing up as manifested by our federal courts.
For the people who oppose this, is there any legal recourse?
Yes, this case may not be over yet. All of the justices acknowledge that this case can continue in the lower courts. This was here on something of a preliminary posture, even if 17 months in doesn't feel preliminary. But the case can at least conceivably continue in the lower courts. One thing that some of the challengers might want to pick up on there is the acknowledgement by the Chief Justice in his majority opinion for 5 justices that the emergency authority relied on here by the president is inherently temporary. Now, the majority of the court wasn't willing to find this ban unlawful because it lacked a particular expiration date. But if it needs to be temporary, there is the question of how long can it be on the books for?
Now, a number of tech executives rallied to fund another organization where you are executive director, the Institute for Constitutional Advocacy and Protection, which offers a legal SWAT team of sorts to people in situations of extreme instability, potentially when a travel ban is implemented. How helpful have these tech folks been? How much have you raised, and how much have they helped you raise for this organization?
We are extremely grateful at ICAP for the support we've received. We began to build some support early in 2017. We launched in August of 2017, so we're just coming up on our first birthday. And in that time, we've sued some of the groups that showed up in Charlottesville last August as part of the Unite the Right rally there, trying to curb the violence that the country witnessed there. We've defended sanctuary cities in Indiana. We've attacked anti-sanctuary city laws in Texas and elsewhere. So having the support to find the constitutional issues of the day, press on the right cases, and continue to use the courts as a check on the executive or on others who would act outside the law strikes us as a very valuable contribution to be making, especially in these times. And we're grateful for the opportunity to be making that contribution.
So are you seeing cases of folks, immigrants, travelers, who may be caught in the dragnet here? And can you give us any color on what they're experiencing?
I think that's what we may be seeing in the coming days and weeks. Of course, this challenge was writ large to the policy as written, but part of what may follow in the wake of today's ruling are narrower challenges, perhaps individuals who feel that they particularly have a stronger case. You also will see, and this may or may not be challengeable in court, but it's still important, I think you'll see a pressing on the waivers that are purportedly available even under this ban. You saw some of the justices today express concern that those waivers were not really available to those who might qualify for them, and I think that deserves scrutiny going forward.
So, Silicon Valley and several tech companies and CEOs have largely opposed the travel ban. We had Airbnb on the show earlier. They're offering services to refugees. What can companies do?
You know, it seems like legal services are a big one. And, of course, that's partly where we fit in, but we are small, and there are lots of folks who need legal services these days. So to provide support for that, to provide a sense of what is available, even to share information, that's part of what Justice Breyer, in particular, at oral argument in this case back in April, pressed the government on. For those who qualify for a waiver, do they know it's available? Do they know they qualify? Do they know how to pursue it if they do qualify? And companies can be valuable in sharing information about how to at least make the most of what's available here.
Might we see retaliatory measures from countries targeted by this ban?
I don't know. I used to work on counterterrorism issues in government and information sharing in particular, and it has long struck me in the course of this saga that banning a country's nationals from entering our country is hardly a good way to increase cooperation and enhance intelligence sharing. Now, whether countries will react the way Chad, for example, reacted when it was first placed on the ban by pulling some of its troops out of the counterterrorism fight in West Africa against a group called Boko Haram, remains to be seen. But this still strikes me as an unfortunate approach. And that's one thing, of course, the court doesn't speak to. It tells the country whether something is lawful or unlawful, but not whether it's a good idea. And a lot of us who've worked on counterterrorism still think that what the president has pursued here is really not a good idea.
So do you imagine there is new activity in cyberspace right now?
In terms of reacting to this decision?
Right.
I do think you'll see folks who are unhappy with it and certainly talking about it, but whether in fact you see retaliation, it's so hard to know. Of course, even if I'm disappointed in this result, it's the rule of law in action, and I think the right place to respond is in the courts, whether it's the challengers here continuing their challenge in the lower court, as the Supreme Court at least acknowledged was a possibility today, or whether it's others bringing their own challenges. That seems to be the place to pick up on this for those who want to keep pressing and keep challenging what the executive has done here.